Sorry to interrupt. I'm sure you're having pleasant conversations. Want to get into our presentation so we can get you out on time here. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Father John Hopkins. He's a Legionary of Christ out of Washington, D.C., and he's accompanied today also by Father Jeremy Lambert. Father Jeremy, just wave. There he is, okay. These folks come down once a month and help to form folks who are part of the Regnum Christi movement, which is one of 120 different movements within our Catholic faith. And we've been very blessed to have them a part of our lives for the past couple of years and be a part of this program. Father John has an extensive background in marriage preparation and as well as presentations and retreats. So we're very, very proud to bring him for us to have these discussions. Please welcome Father John Hopkins.
It's a real pleasure to be here tonight. Don't you just hate needy people? I mean, I remember my cousin Louis. He was 2 years younger than I was, and he went around, sort of following us, and we just go, get away, get away, get away. No, I want to play with you. I want to have lunch with you. I need you guys. And we're going, because we were cool, right? But you hear people being needy, and we go, oh, man. And so tonight's talk is about being needy. And yet we all have needs. And what we're going to talk about tonight is our deepest needs. And I don't think we really think about this a lot. That we have needs. And that many times that we feel deeply dissatisfied or there's a lack of fulfillment in our life. We don't wonder why. One of the very first Twilight Zones. Rod Serling, right? There was this, all of a sudden you see this guy and he is in this town and there's no one alive around. And he goes from one place to the other and he's freaking out because the radio's working, everything's working, but nobody is there. And he begins to go crazy. And the next thing you see is take him out of confinement. And you find out he's an astronaut, and they're experimenting. How much time can one person be alone? And the whole thing about the show was, when we don't have human contact, when we don't have human interaction, we go a little bit crazy. We have a need for each other. Now, what are our deepest needs? I think the two deepest needs of the soul is first to have a purpose in life, and the second is to love and be loved. And outside of those two things, there is nothing more important than that. Let's talk about having a purpose in life. In his classic work, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist, explains that even in the worst situations in the world, the German concentration camps, death camps. He saw that when a person had a purpose outside of themselves, that person had hope and strength. Those who had no purpose, who were not aware of their purpose, even if they came in and they were stronger and healthier, they were the first ones to die. And so he effectively created logotherapy, where he said, we're depressed whenever we forget our real purpose in life. And to be healthy from an emotional point of view, we need to go and find real purpose. It radically changes our perspective. And nothing can crush our human spirit when we have a clear purpose in life. In our modern world, it seems like we have it all, don't we? We have things that our grandparents wouldn't even have dreamt of. The comforts, the ease. And yet our world is filled with depression and anxiety. I see it all the time. People coming in stressed out. Oh, we use that phrase. How you doing? Oh, a little bit stressed. Oh, right? And yet, we have to ask, what is my purpose? What is my mission? And what are my real goals? They're absolutely critical in my life. What gives my life meaning and purpose? Viktor Frankl states that a healthy purpose can't be ourselves, can't be the accumulation of wealth, can't be just my own comfort. True purpose can't have something to do with my ego. When we find purpose in others and in helping others, living for others, loving others, all of a sudden our purpose is real. Our ego is a bottomless pit. We try to feed the ego, it just gets hungrier and hungrier. And so first question we have to ask ourselves is, what are my goals? What is my real purpose in life? And I'll go right back to Scripture. Where is your heart? That's where your treasure is. Our treasure is really our goal in life. And so many times, intellectually speaking, we'll say, oh, God, yeah, He's my goal. And we don't think about Him that much. Well, if we don't think about Him that much, He's not really our goal. How do we spell success? Remember when Sister Mary Frances in second grade taught us the meaning of life. She would all have us chant. She loved Gregorian chant. The meaning in life is to know, love, and serve God so as to be able to be happy with Him through all eternity. Amen. It's funny, I go back to that, It just etched in, is almost sacramental, etched into my psyche, right? The meaning in life is to have a relationship with God, to fall in love with Him, and then to serve Him by serving others. That's the meaning of my life. And my life will have as much value as I succeed in that goal. To love, to know, love, and serve God, and then my neighbor. In today's society, it's to know, love, and serve me. Right? To know, love, and serve me. Because I got needs and I deserve a break today. I'm entitled. Right? I'm entitled. And yet, God will judge us by this criteria. Was this a goal? Was it a real goal? Was it the most important goal in your life? Do you have a purpose? When we get sick, when things go bad and all of a sudden we go, oh, this is so unfair. This is so cruel. You go, did somebody take away your purpose? We can know, love, and serve God when we're sick and when we're healthy. When we win the lottery and when we go bankrupt. In every situation in life, if we understand the goal well, outside, our purpose in life is not in ourselves, it's in God. Everything changes. In 1945, there was a young man who went off to fight in Europe. Hit the beaches of Normandy and then went out to attack a submarine base in Brest, France. He was shot twice, had a mortar shell explode and shatter his leg. And as he lay in a pool of blood, thinking that this might be it, he called for help. And he called for help, and nobody came. And so he closed his eyes and said, Lord, I'm 18 years old. Is this it? And he said, Lord, if I survive, if you want me, I'm ready. I've tried to love you. I have no problem. But if I survive, I want to ask for two graces. Number one, I want to ask for the grace to appreciate every single day of my life as a gift, not for myself, but as a gift to love you. And the second grace is send me a really good wife. 60-some-odd years later, he's in a hospital and surrounded by his kids. And all of a sudden, what happens? The kids are all upset that Dad's so sick and he might die. And he looks up and he says, cut it out. Why all the sad faces? This is unacceptable. And he says, I nearly died. I nearly died over in France. And every day that I've gotten up has been an incredible grace. And it was a grace not to live for myself, but to love God. And that's been my challenge. And now, I'm in my 80s, and he wants me. He can have me. Look at this. I have completed my mission. Well, he lived for another 10 years. Stubborn. And he died last July, and that's my dad. And he taught me that every single day is a gift. But it's not a gift for myself to acquire wealth, to do what I want. It is a gift to know, love, and serve God, and to make a difference in life. How many of us really make this mission the most important thing in our lives? When God is our mission and at the center of my life, all of a sudden, all of the stresses and all of the difficulties have a totally different perspective. When a husband and wife understand that their deepest mission is the same, get each other to heaven and to get their kids to heaven and to help love their neighbor and make this world a better place. When they have the same mission, what a difference it makes. And all of a sudden, the importance of supporting each other becomes primary in their lives. To support each other, to build up each other. And yet, when the goals of financial stability, career advancement, what school our kids are going to go to, where we can go on vacations, how many Panthers games or Hurricane games can we attend? When this becomes the only goals that I'm really thinking about, that's what's motivating me. All of a sudden, the two begin to have diverse purposes. Because they're really, it's a lot of it is centered on ourselves. And all of a sudden, the worries, the difficulties, the stresses of life become overwhelming. As spouses, do you talk about your mission? Do you really support each other in this call? Are you praying and sacrificing for this mission? Do you truly believe that your spouse can be a saint? There's nothing more powerful than a spouse who encourages and believes in the power of God working in and through their spouse. That's not to say you don't know all their faults. We already know, you know that. But when we understand this, a fundamental, all of a sudden, change happens in our lives. So the first thing we need is a mission. And the mission is going to be focused on ourselves or on God and others. It's one of the two. The second need is to love and be loved. We can't live without love. There's no greater truth than this. Our whole self-esteem, our self-worth as a child grows up in the recognition that they're loved by their parents, which is a reflection of God's love for them. True self-esteem is found in love and not in just patting somebody on the head and saying, oh, you're good, even though you've robbed a bank. No. Our society is producing sociopaths instead of good kids because of that. You know, it's a really, really distorted idea of what self-esteem is. The failure to love and be loved only can bring heartache and loneliness. Spouses are called to bring the very best out in each other. They are called to be each other's best friends, companions, partners, lovers. They are the one person who accepts them as they truly are, defects and all. They need to be somebody that the other person is comfortable taking off their masks and truly being themselves. And this demands a relationship based on love and trust, respect and appreciation. But in reality, it's not easy to accomplish. It is truly the foundation of feeling loved and accepted and enables you to fulfill your mission of loving God, being loved by God. Now, to love and be loved, greatest need. And fulfilling this need is not just about seeing that your spouse is needy. There are 3 books that I'm going to talk about very quickly. I'm going to talk about his needs, her needs. I'm going to talk about love and respect and Gary Chapman's The 5 Languages of Love. Really quickly. They all talk about needs. And so many times when you have these, needs, the reaction of the couples is what? Well, Father, I won the lottery. I have a really needy husband or a really needy wife. Does that mean I'm condemned to serving them? Ugh. Well, that's not the healthiest way to look at this, okay? The healthiest way of looking at it is the following. We all have needs, and we all have love languages. And God has put you on earth. First of all, as I said in our first talk, to discover this mystery in front of you. Who is different than you are. Who truly helps complement you. If you were the same exact person talking about problems. Wow, nothing worse than that. Your problems, you're so much alike, it's scary. No, you don't want that. You want the differences. And the differences are real. To see that you are complementary and that you have something to give. And that what you would like, your need is going to be very different than their needs. And you know what happens? It forces us to take a step back and say, what are their needs? I mean, really deep needs. And how can I love them and fulfill those needs? Why? Because in doing so, I am manifesting God's love for them. Hence, I'm fulfilling my purpose. I'm loving them, and I choose love. When we get into this, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, this quid pro quo type of love, it is no longer the love of Jesus Christ for his church. St. Paul talks about that marriage needs to be a reflection of Jesus' love for the church. And how did he love the church? He died for the church. He completely focused himself for the church. And so these needs isn't an obligation. That's the first thing I want to say. It's not an obligation. It's not a checklist. Well, if you do this for me, and I'll do that for you. No. It's, Lord, come into my heart. Help me be aware of all the love that you have for me. Because that has to be the first step. An awareness of God's love for me. And the deeper that awareness is, the more profound that awareness is, the more that becomes a conviction that we are the beloved of God. Then we get this intense need to give back this love to God, who has given me everything. He has given me absolutely everything. And in doing that, I'm looking and saying, not, what do I like to give the most? No, that's selfish. But what do you need the most? And there I will be your servant. There I will be your servant. And we don't talk about this service, this being a servant, washing each other's feet. And a lot of times because we are too insecure to do that. We have still not experienced the depth of God's love for us. And that's why at times our own love can be so partial. Our own love can be so incomplete. In all of these talks, the one thing I've tried to stress is to be a spouse is not easy. But if we insert ourselves into a spiritual life that's real, it's going to take a lot of work, but it's real. It will enable us to be secure men and women who are capable of growing in love every day. But it's not just because I fell in love. We have chemistry. The other day, this couple came back 2.5 years after they came to marriage prep. And I remember sitting down with them, and they had a few problems, but they said, Father, don't worry. We're in love. And I'm saying to myself, I will see these people very shortly, you know? We love each other more than anybody we know. I mean, we are in love. Yeah, we have these little problems, and they begin describing their little problems, and I'm going, oh, you need to address these. You need to address these. You need to address these. Oh, no, they're not that big because love conquers all. We're in love. And you're just going, they have no idea. And again, 2.5 years later, they're coming back going, Father, you're our last chance. We're about to kill each other. And you're going, well, you know, before you talk to me about your relationship, I want to know what each of you are doing with your relationship with God. And I remember one, I won't say who, just looked up and, well, what does that have to do with our relationship? And I'm going, oh, wow. It's very humbling when you hear that because you spend almost an entire day hitting that and they don't get it, you know, because we're in love. Oh. If we're not working on our love for God, if it is not the most important thing in my life, if I don't have the humility to say, it all depends on you and my awareness of your love to be able to truly be the servant that you need. Unless we do that, we're in trouble. Somebody who doesn't feel truly loved is incapable of loving. So there are 3 books that I recommend. The first book is Love and Respect by it will come to me, Emerson Eggerichs. Emerson Eggerichs. Yeah, wow, that was embarrassing. Emerson Eggerichs. And he goes and he said, basically, the book is about men need to feel respected. If they feel disrespected by their spouse, they begin to withhold love. If women feel that their spouse is withholding love, they automatically begin to withhold respect. I think it's a fascinating book, and I think it's very deep, and I recommend it highly. Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs. Second book is Willard Harley, His Needs, Her Needs. And basically goes through 10 needs of all human beings and says that men tend towards these needs, women tend towards those needs, and what we really need to do is each person needs to understand what the other person needs are and what their needs, and to talk about them in a safe way and to prioritize those needs. Okay? We'll go through really quickly. Needs. Number 1, admiration and words of affirmation. Okay? Had a whole talk on that 2 times ago. Number 2, affection, especially the non-sexual forms of affection. Loving words, gifts, hugs, kisses, courtesies. Creating an environment of affection. I love you. Number 3, conversation. Not merely talking at somebody, but connecting. Conversations where we connect. It's couch time where there's no other distractions and we're looking into each other's eyes, talking about real things. Number 4, domestic support. Helping out. Preparing meals, cleaning up with meals, serving each other by creating a house that actually works. Number 5, family commitment. Commitment to each other and to the kids. Family commitment. That quality time that we spend with the kids. I've had so many women say, Father, my husband says I'm not affectionate enough. But you know, the only thing it takes for me to be super affectionate is to see my husband spend time with my kids. If I don't see it, I get resentful, and he not only can be on the other side of the bed, but the other side of the state for all I care. You right? Again, you have different needs, and when that's an obsession, woo, it can affect everything else. Financial support. This is a funny one because a lot of times when you're in love, it's not that important. Until what happens? You have kids, and all of a sudden you think, how am I going to afford college, and how, blah, 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 and I want to, and all of a sudden that becomes so much more important. Financial support. Number 7, honesty and openness. Number 8, physical attractiveness of our spouse. Father, my spouse used to, put on a nice dress and this, that, and the other. And now I go, you want to go out? And she says, okay, I'm coming in from the garden, let's go. And and I'm going, is that bad? I want to show her off, but she has hair in her hair. Or he goes out and he says, okay, I'm ready to go. And there is ketchup stain down his shirt. And you go, It goes both ways. Okay. Number 9, recreational companionship. To really discover things that you can do together that are fun. And number 10, sexual fulfillment. Okay? So, one of the things that people do is they go and rate these lists 1 through 10, and then to talk about it. Again, if you're interested, I can get you this list, and you can do that. The third one that talks about needs is Gary Chapman's The 5 Languages of Love. And Chapman is all about, a lot of times people don't feel loved because they take for granted what the other person is doing. Their language of love, what they want to receive, is very different than what their spouse thinks that their language of love is. And they give and give. For example, there's 5 languages here. words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Okay? And so, he says a lot of times you have somebody who has grown up, and the greatest thing you can do is give a gift to somebody else. And they're always giving gifts. The other person, gifts isn't, that important. What they're looking for is either quality time or maybe physical touch. And so they're both are giving, and they're both not receiving what they want to receive. And so Chapman says, you need to really understand what the other person's language of love is. And so if it's acts of service, for example, you can go, wow, they're doing this, they're loving me. Wow, I appreciate that. And the other person says, they're really spending quality time with me. That's how they're shouting, I love you. And we also need to know, maybe I have something that I'm not used to, and it's harder for me to give. Well, I need to become an expert on that language of love. It's not enough just to say, I'm not like that. No, love becomes what the other person needs. That's true love. We grow and can be transformed. But again, all of, whether it be the languages of love, whether they be the 10 most common needs or love and respect, any of those books, what it's really talking about is this purpose. This purpose that we have to know, love, and serve God by loving our spouse. And in loving our spouse, being fulfilled. What I'd like is for all of you to go and, if you want, talk about needs. What are your biggest needs? But I would sort of like, I have a different type of questionnaire today. And it's all about, am I making God the centerpiece of my marriage? So as to be able to be capable of loving. And so I'd like, if we could pass out these, they have one, okay. If you could go, spread out, and really talk about making God real in your own life, recognizing God's love so as to be able to be happy with this and to be able to truly express God's love to each other. So for the next 35 minutes, if we all could go and find a place to talk to each other and go over these questions.
What does it look like to really make God a partner in my marriage?
Do I believe that the graces of the sacrament of matrimony will strengthen me? How?
What human resources, for example, marriage retreats, courses, counseling, am I willing to take advantage of in order to help me in this commitment? Do I think of these resources as preventative maintenance or urgent care?
Do I take seriously the trust the Lord has placed in me to help my spouse grow in faith, hope, and love for Him and others? How will I do this?
Does my spouse share my spiritual values? How would I describe him or her spiritually?
Let's do that one again.
Okay. Does my spouse share my spiritual values? How would I describe him or her spiritually?
How can I support my spouse's faith and relationship with God?
What is the depth of the knowledge of our faith? Are we perhaps on different stages of our journey, or even of different faith backgrounds? What significant faith differences do we have, and how can we respect each other in that area while allowing each other to grow and develop? Am I willing to investigate and grow in my own convictions and also support my spouse's faith journey?
Is Sunday Mass a regular part of our family life as a way of keeping God in focus and worshiping Him as a family? And do we celebrate the sacraments themselves in our family as something real and meaningful as they occur, such as baptisms, First Holy Communion, and confirmation?
Do we believe that a lifelong commitment is possible in this day and age? How will we seek God's help when necessary to sustain this commitment?
Purpose, love. They need to be our goals. And one thing I did not mention is our needs change. As one person says, "Oh, my wife always needed this," and she says, "That was 30 years ago." And yet, I believe that one of the most important things we can do is pray about the true needs of the other person, because a lot of times you can find out and discover a need they don't even know that they have, okay? But it's the Holy Spirit that helps us. How can I make them feel loved? How can I make them feel appreciated? How can I help them in their mission? Okay? A lot of prayer and also conversation. Hey, are there any needs that we need to work on? Because we're called to be partners. We're called to truly love each other in this incredibly beautiful mission to get to heaven. And your love has consequences. And those consequences are and will be eternal. So we're looking forward to next month when we will go over boundaries. Boundaries. It's really important and hopefully an extremely practical talk. Monsignor has some announcements. So thank you and see you next month. Monsignor?
Call your attention to the fact that this coming weekend, we're having maybe to 7:45, 15 minutes of just kind of relaxing a little bit, then the third presentation. So rather than having 3 nights, we're just going to have all of it in one night. Then the other thing is next Friday night, we're going to be having Greg and Julie Alexander. They are the couple that will be the main presenters for the United by Truth conference. and they're coming here the night before, and they're going to be talking about discovering God in your marriage. So it kind of follows along with our series that we're doing here. And then on Friday mornings, we'll be starting up next Friday, correct, Greg? Yes, sir. And our theme is about the Eucharist also. So